Oke.
Kita sekarang menghibur para akademisi pendidikan dari seluruh dunia dalam acara webinar dan internasional. Perkenalkan dulu, nama saya Rayang Sukuraga adalah nama saya. Uring jadi dulu pengamanan, uring jadi kita.
Apa? Senior di sana.
Ya, betul jika tadi bahwa kita lebih bagus kita mendengar para pepatah. Nah, ini para guru dari akademis dari berbagai universitas di seluruh dunia. Luar biasa. Luar biasa. Nah, sekarang kita semua mendengarkan. Kita dengarkan lagu Daminati. Ya, Daminatilah. Daminatilah itu apa? Yang artinya 15 nada dari seni. Dan artinya dari mana datangnya umat manusia. Salah apa coba? Ini. Tidak dunia hanya sementara. Untuk nanti di dunia yang selamanya mereka ada pula apa? Mari kita nyanyikan lagu.
ada 15 nada dalam seni Sunda warisan budaya bangsa. Kami natilah ada 15 nada dalam seni Sunda warisan budaya bangsa. Dari mana bukannya semua manusia, milik siapa ini serta semua. Nanti semua akan balik ke asalnya. Tidak kekal hanya sementara. Lakukanlah perintah yang Maha Esa. Lakukanlah perintah yang Maha Esa. Siapa dunia serta isinya, nanti semua akan balik ke asalnya. Tidak kekal hanya sementara. Lakukanlah perintah yang Maha Esa. Lakukanlah perintah yang Maha Esa.
Tadi lagu Daminatila dari budaya Sunda. Ilahan nada ada 5. Itu artinya yang paling penting. Sekarang kenalkan saya, nama saya Dan. Ureng lengan dek dititah naon barang bere punta pentak nyokot atau tutuduh. Kok haram mah namun ureng dititah mereka lubut. Di sekarang itu lagi ada corona. Corona itu yang COVID-19. Kami sasalaman. Istilah macam surang Sunda. Sasalaman lain muka keduluran. Kaimah lain tenyaam. Kuring kudu ngajaga antara corona dan corona. Ulah nanti sabar, bisa saling menularkan. Harus jaga jarak. Jadi ada istilah, ada apa? 3M. Apa? Pakai masker, menjaga jarak, mencuci tangan. Nah, yuk kita sekarang bagaimana yang disukai dan tidak disukai oleh tangan melalui lagu.
Manusia, kami semua suruh apa? Mencuri atau meminta, itu pulas kami tak suka. Daripada memberi hanya terpamer peduli, lebih baik sendiri. Walau si mulut teriak ngeri. Kami kawan dari bangsa manusia, kami semua mencuri atau meminta untuk puas, kami tak suka. daripada aku memberi hanya untuk pamer peduli. Lebih baik tersendiri. Walau si mulut teriak nyeri.
Barusan lagu tentang si tangan, tentang kamu tangan. Sekarang, selain di acara webinar internasional, bahwa sekarang di tanggal 7 November, hari lahirnya Wayang Sukuraga. Tapi tanggal 7 November itu hari Wayang Sukuraga. Ya, mari kita ucapkan
Thank you, Mr. Erwin, for showing us the beautiful performance performed by Sakuraga Foundation. And we also have seen about the melodious voice there. And we started right now. Maybe I would like to open this the second session. Mr. Erwin.
Oke, Bu Andin, dimulai. Kayaknya dua pemateri sudah ada di dalam.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Erwin, for giving me the time and this opportunity too. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the international webinar and workshop for teachers' competency development. Now we have the second session, which will be held at 3:30 p.m. of Indonesian time. And in the second session, we are going to discuss about teaching management and method, which will be presented by also 4 speakers. There are Mrs. Miss Maya, and then Miss Kylie Hurst, Mr. David Martin, and Dr. Upasana Singh. But before we take a look closer to the presentation, once again, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Andina Nurma Fadila, and I'm the English teacher of Vocational High School of PGRI Subang, West Java. And today I am still becoming your moderator in this kind of interesting virtual webinar workshop for teachers' competency development, which is carried out by Indonesia Approach Education, or IAE, with the topic of teach values, content, and pedagogy through global citizenship education, teacher best practice. So, Mr. Elwin, I would like to know about your opinion about this kind of amazing event. Would you like to share us, before we go to the main session, maybe about your opinion or maybe your argument about following this kind, or maybe as a chairman of Indonesia Approach Education, what do you think about this kind of event?
Ya, Bu Andin? Suara saya kedengaran?
Yes, very clear.
Oke, jadi apa narasumbernya sudah ada semua. Coba disapa dulu, Bu Andin.
Okay, would like to greet Miss Kylie first. Miss Kylie.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for still being with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Miss Kylie, for your information, you will be the first speaker of the second session. So
Okay.
please prepare yourself then. And then the second one is Mr. David Martin. Mr. David Martin. Have you been on?
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good afternoon. That's right. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Mr. David Martin. I hope you are still in a good condition. Yeah. And then the third speaker is Dr. Upasana Singh. For Dr. Upasana Singh, have you been there? I forget to have the personal contact of Dr. Upasana Singh, but maybe I can contact her later. I would like to remind her about this presentation. Yeah, we can skip to Mrs. Lismaya.
Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you, Ibu?
Perfect.
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 Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you will be the fourth speaker of our second session today. So, Mr. Erwin, are you noticing my voice? Mr. Erwin? Yeah, Mr. Erwin, before we go to the main session, and that is the presentation from all of the speakers, I would like to know about your opinion, maybe. Your opinion about this kind of event, because you are the chairman of Indonesia Approach Education, and maybe you can share about your opinion or maybe ideas relating to this webinar or workshop.
Oke, baik Bu Andin, I speak Indonesia. Oke, terima kasih atas kesempatannya. Kalau saya selaku sebagai Ketua Education, khususnya juga saya mewakili teman-teman panitia, merasa sangat senang, bangga pada hari ini walaupun di tengah pandemik ya. Tetapi kita tidak berarti harus berdiam diri saja, harus di kamar, harus menutup diri, berserah diri dan menunggu. Tetapi bagaimana kita berusaha memanfaatkan keadaan sebaik-baiknya. Ternyata di sisi lain di pandemi ini ya satu hal yang kita pelajari bahwa teknologi dapat menghubungkan kita kepada siapapun tanpa batasan ruang dan waktu. Dan itu yang kita tangkap dengan teman-teman khususnya di e-education. Ya alhamdulillah pada hari ini apa yang menjadi sebuah pengalaman dari dosen atau guru-guru di luar negeri juga bisa saling berbagi kepada para pengajar khususnya di Indonesia. Jadi intinya bahwa tak ada inovasi yang tercipta tanpa kolaborasi. Jadi intinya kegiatan yang kami lakukan pada hari ini ya mudah-mudahan apa yang disampaikan oleh para narasumber, baik dari pengalaman atau baik dari teknik atau strategi yang disampaikan nantinya dapat menjadi sebuah pertimbangan atau bisa sebagai referensi khususnya bagi Bapak Ibu guru yang lain agar bisa juga menciptakan pembelajaran yang dapat mengajarkan berbagai keterampilan global seperti itu. Jadi harapan kami dari e-education mudah-mudahan acara kami juga selanjutnya tetap selalu berusaha untuk menghadirkan berbagai kegiatan khususnya di pendidikan, khususnya dalam meningkatkan kompetensi guru. Mudah-mudahan doakan kami juga agar tetap bisa memberikan pelayanan maksimal dan mohon maaf ketika banyak kekurangan karena ya kami juga merasa bahwa ya mungkin kami masih butuh belajar tetapi di sisi lain keinginan teman-teman ingin terus memberikan sumbangsi khususnya dalam meningkatkan kompetensi guru. Dan saya sangat mengucapkan terima kasih banyak, thank you for all speaker from dari berbagai negara-negara di dunia, karena kesempatan ini sangat langka, bisa berbagi secara langsung, bertatap muka secara langsung, walaupun tidak bisa berinteraksi dalam arti berjabat tangan secara langsung, tetapi apa yang kita peroleh pada hari ini mudah-mudahan bisa melebihi ketika kita bertemu secara langsung. Dan saya berharap mudah-mudahan apa yang menjadi cita-cita semua peserta dalam mengikuti kegiatan webinar workshop ini bisa tercapai. Mungkin itu saja, Bu Andin, mungkin bisa langsung diserahkan dan dimulai lagi. Terima kasih banyak Bu Andin atas kesempatannya.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ellie, because now distance is meaningless. We make it more benefit. We're having the more benefit because the use of the technology. Thank you so much for Mr. Ellie as the chairman of Indonesia Approach Education. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have followed the first session very well. And this time, I hope that all of the participants here will have greater motivations to receive knowledge from the speakers who will explain their presentations. And allow me to start this event by mentioning some rules. The first is, please mute your microphones during all the speakers explain their presentations. Second, if you want to join our discussion, please write down your questions in the chat box by mentioning your names first and then to whom your questions are directed. And then the third, on the last session, we are going to send you the relevant link to show your attendance today. And this is the time for us to look on the first presentation. So maybe I hope for the first speaker, will be going to prepare herself well. Please welcome Miss Kylie Hurst. Miss Kylie Hurst. Do you hear my voice?
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Hey.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Miss Kylie.
I am so excited to be presenting for you today. I'm very excited to be able to connect with educators that are across the world. This is something that I've been looking forward to doing for about a month now. So, like she said, my name is Kaylee Hurst. And I'm going to be presenting on teaching 8th grade science in a global setting. So my objective for you today is I want to be able to provide you with resources that you can use in your own classroom and how to teach science on a global level. So I want to teach you how to create a global classroom. I just want to start by giving you a little bit of background about myself and how I've learned to teach from a global perspective. So I currently teach at a school called the International Leadership of Texas. And at this school, we strive to teach from a global perspective because we know how critical it is for future generations, for them to be prepared for international.
Hurst,
Yes.
I cannot see your screen.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see your screen actually.
have you seen the first two slides?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Okay. So at IL Texas, we know how important it is to prepare our students to be a part of this internationally connected world. One of the ways that we do this is we start from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. Our students are required to take 3 languages. So we teach English, Spanish, and the Chinese language. So our hopes is by the time that they graduate as a trilingual student. So in my classroom, I want to prepare my students for leadership roles in the international community. And one of the ways that I do this is I like to always look at the world through a lens of science. Okay, did it go to the next screen? And India, can you see the next screen where it says virtual field trips? Okay. Very good, very good. So one of the ways that I like to make my classroom a global classroom is by taking virtual field trips. Students love when you say the word field trip, because to them, it's kind of like, oh, it's an off day for me. I get to have fun today. But at the same time, we can still learn from it as well. So one of the main topics that I wanted to talk about is ending world hunger. This is a global issue that a lot of countries have talked about, and there is also on the forefront of how they can properly sustain feeding their entire country. So my presentation is going to be interactive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be dropping these links in the chat box so you can follow along with me. Hold on one second. Okay, so I just dropped that chat or the link in the chat box for you to click on, and this is going to take you to the website that I'm also going to be showing on my screen. So I chose the company Syngenta to talk about. Because a world without hunger, we have we're going to be better economically, we're going to be healthier people, we're going to have better equality, and we're going to have better social development. So even though I'm in the United States and we're a first world country, we still face this problem to this day. So Syngenta is a wonderful company because they are global. They are a agricultural technical company, and so they produce seeds, and what they do is they do genomic research in order to make these genetically modified plants in order to sustainably feed their entire countries. One of the things that you can do is you can click on any one of these videos shown below, and you can show them to your students. This can either be done as an entire class, or it's something that they can do individually as a student. So maybe you're interested in genotyping. That's one of the videos that you could click on. Or maybe you guys have just started a unit on insects and different types of, maybe you're talking about chemistry in your classes and how does that affect the plant, or how does that affect the insect? So this one is about entomology and insect control. Another video that you can watch is called agronomy. And so this has to do with, it's the study of soil and plants. And it has a lot of chemistry involved in it as well. So if you continue scrolling down, this is where you can find the classroom activities. And I really like this as a teacher because I do not have to prep at all for this virtual field trip. They have what's called an educator's guide. So if you were to download that, this is what it looks like. It gives you an overview, kind of like background information on what it's going to be talking about in the videos. If you continue scrolling down, you'll see that it also lists the objectives for the students, which is really good for them to know beforehand, because they're like, they have a preparation. What am I going to be reading about? What am I going to be interested in? This also gives you the materials. And then it also is going to list the vocabulary that you're going to be discussing. Again, that was the teacher's guide, the educator guide. Now, if you go back to the main page, you can also download the student handout. And this is something that you can take for a grade or as a completion grade. It's up to you, but they can work together in groups and they can answer these questions together. So it's already done for you. This is something you can either print out, or it's something that you can post in your virtual platform that you guys are using. For me in particular, I use Google Classroom, and this is easily, you can just download this as a PDF and post in Google Classroom. And then I also did want to make mention that I did a little bit of research, and they do have a Syngenta in Indonesia. So this is a website I'm also going to put in the chat box, and you could check out that website as well. So the other virtual field trip that I would find beneficial is with a company called Zoetis. And they are a animal health global company. So they want to improve products for animals, for veterinarians, for livestock producers, or if you're just a pet owner, they want to help you out as well. And this is a global company. Once you click on their website, you can watch any one of the videos, and it is going to show different lab techniques. So this is maybe for middle school area, 6th to 8th grade, and also for high school when you start doing labs. You know, when you start using the glassware, and maybe you're using the Bunsen burner, petri dishes, or pipetting. These are some of the lab techniques that you can find in these videos. I have also put that web link in the chat box for you if you'd like to go to that web page. So something that I like about Zoetis that kind of is different from Syngenta is they are showing the different STEM careers available. So STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We know this is kind of like the up and coming field. It's talked about a lot on the news, and also at different professional developments as well. So if you scroll down, again, they have the different videos that you can choose to watch either as a classroom together, or you can have students pick whichever one they want and they're interested in, and they can watch this independently. So in addition to having the educator guide as well as the student handouts, they have also created what is called a Kahoot quiz. I love this platform. It gives you, this is what it looks like once you click on it. This is something that you can create quizzes on your own, or if there are certain topics that you're working on currently in your classroom, like say light energy, you can also, there are thousands of quizzes that you can choose from. I really like this platform because it kind of gives me a time as a teacher to, just relax and not really have to be upfront teaching something. I can let my students compete against each other, which they love doing. And what it does is it will project a question, and you can choose the amount of time that they have to read that question. So on this one, it's over here on the right-hand corner. It says that each question is projected for 20 seconds. During that time, there will be a little score scale that will continually going down. So the longer you take to read and answer the question, the less points you will receive. And so say if you see the question right away, then you're going to get the most points. And I like it too because it's color coordinated. And then at the end of each question, it will show the game board, and it will show who is in the lead out of your class. So you can see who got the question correct. And at this time, that's when you can take the time to either explain the question as a teacher, or one of your students can do it, which I always recommend doing as well. And both of these resources are completely free. So when I was preparing my presentation, I was going to give the allotment of 5 minutes, and I was going to put everyone in breakout rooms so they would take this time to look through the resources that I dropped in the chat box, as well as be able to collaborate and talk amongst other teachers and educators in the room. But I don't have that option to do a breakout room. So I'm going to take just a couple minutes. I'm just going to sit here, and I'm going to let you look through the different field trips. This one that I'm going to put in the chat box right now, this has the option for all of the different ones. So let me show you what it is. So the chat, or the link that I just put in the chat box, I see your question. Hold on one second. You can choose from Tractor Supply Company, you can choose from John Deere, you can check out the Zoetis that I talked about already, Syngenta, Cargill, and the Ford Motor Company. So go ahead and take a couple minutes to look at that, and I'll answer any questions that you may have right now.
Ya, untuk Bapak Ibu partisipan silakan untuk mengakses link yang sudah diberikan oleh Miss Amy Hurst. Kemudian sesuai instruksi silakan untuk menjalankan apa yang ada di instruksi tersebut. You can ask.
Can someone unmute? Oh, there we go. Hi.
Hi, I would like to ask some questions, Miss Kelly.
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, okay, because I have already explored the link you just given, and then I'm very interested with that one. But I would like to know whether, because it's for you are the 8th graders teachers. So I would like to know about for the younger students, how can they enjoy the virtual field trip? I mean, like this, we know that the young student, they would love to learn better when they have to explore the learning materials and how to foster their science skills if with the virtual trip, like you mentioned just now. Thank you.
That was a
For
great
you.
question.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you're right. These are targeted more towards like an older age group, say middle school and high school. I'm not finished with my presentation yet, so I actually have materials for the younger age group that I'm going to talk about next, and that
Okay.
will have a kind of like a field trip for you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the next way that you can make your classroom globalized is by making use of online resources. So here are links to some of my favorite sites that I have put together. And the first one I want to talk about is the Smithsonian Science Education. So the Smithsonian Museum is pretty popular. They are really good at developing curriculum and different types of article for all age groups, starting all the way in kindergarten and up. So if you scroll down on this website, I place it in the chat as well. You'll see where it says featured content. And you can scroll through this and look at the different things, choices that you have. But the one that I'm going to talk about today is the one that has to do with the coronavirus. So when you click on it, if you scroll down, this is why I really like the Smithsonian, is because they have this offered in 20 different languages. And I checked and they have this article written in Indonesian. So it is right here. So all you have to do is download this and you can read it in this language. So another website that you can use that I got from the Smithsonian it's called edX. This is more geared towards the high school students. Maybe you're preparing them to go off to college, or maybe this is something you as a teacher you're interested in doing. edX offers science courses, and they range from classes all the way starting from beginner to advanced levels. And they have different areas of study.
I also have taken the short course of EDX too.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Oh, you've taken one of these courses?
The short course of EDX.
Oh, awesome.
Right.
Awesome. Good to hear that. Yeah, so they offer all sorts of classes, different topics, and just to list some of the few, you can look at them right here, but they have some in like biology, climate change, genetics, biotechnology is really good, medicine, so geology, all the sciences you can think of, whatever is interesting to you. So the other resource that I have listed is Natural Geographic. I'm going to put the link in the chat box for you. So once you click on the second link that I put in, make sure you click on Education, and you can go to Student Experiences and explore Classroom. I found out about this recently. This is more geared towards the younger students. It's really cool because these are your students. Now, it might be a little off because of the time in Indonesia compared to over here, but you could email National Geographic and see if that you could set up an appointment with one of these explorers. So these the pictures of these people that you see right here, they have explored certain areas of the world. And what they do is they go live and they will actually talk to your classroom one-on-one, and they'll talk about their experiences. They'll show videos and pictures of their trip that they went on. And your students can talk back with them and have one-on-one live interaction with them. So that's really cool. You can register for it. It's completely free. Or say if because of the time difference, you don't have the opportunity to have the live portion of it, you can look at all the past events as well. And I know they do put on some of these speakers in different languages. I'm not sure of all the languages, but I know they do Spanish as well. So they will have like special edition. Another portion of this website that I want to talk about is under classroom resources. This is where you can type in all different all the different subjects that you want to talk about. So say we want to find articles or videos on specifically globalization. So I just type that in the search box, and they have all articles, and it will show what grade levels it's targeted towards. So this article is for grades 5th through 8th, and it tells you kind of the sub-subjects involved in it as well. So it has a little bit of social studies and sociology and economics in it. Or maybe you want to talk about global warming. There's another article. Or the global network. Maybe they're talking about the different restaurants that are common throughout the United States and also found in other parts of the world as well. Another resource is called BBC. I placed that link in the chat for you. And I chose this video about Hong Kong. They have all sorts of different videos that you can choose from. But I found this one in particular very cool because say if you're talking about light energy in the classroom, I know this is done in, over here, it's done in 6th grade and the younger age. I don't talk about this in 8th grade, but it brings about a great discussion for your classroom. So in Hong Kong, these lights are on all the time, 24/7. So it's affecting the wildlife. And you can ask your students, how do you think it's affecting the wildlife? Do you think it's having a positive impact, or do you think it's having a negative impact? If you think it's having a negative impact, what do you think is happening to the animals? What is it causing them to do? And then another question you could even ask as well is, if you had to have the lights on 24/7, even when you were sleeping, how do you think it would affect you? Then they can kind of relate to it and think about how it would affect wildlife. And then another resource is called the National Science Digital Library. This is quite different from all the other sites that I've posted, because if you go to the different resource type right here at the very top, you can choose the different types of resources that you want. So maybe instead of doing a lecture for the day, you want to choose a simulation, or you want to look at a data set. Or maybe for the younger kids, they've been great today, so you want to do a game with them. So this has specific age levels, so you can all the way from preschool, lower primary, which would be like 1st grade, 2nd grade, middle school, high school, and even levels above that as well. So just to do a demonstration, maybe you are teaching the kindergarten age level and you want to talk about applied science. I checked this out already. Maybe you're teaching your students about the different seasons. So everything is free again. You can share this to Google Classroom. And this is just a 3-minute video explaining on a preschooler or a kindergarten level about the season changes. Okay, so one of the other resources that I have for you is the chemistry advent calendar. The past 12 weeks, I have been focusing in my classroom on chemistry, the periodic table of elements, as well as atoms. So atoms and the periodic table is kind of a very difficult conceptual idea for my students to understand. So if you can do things that are hands-on activity that are engaging for them, this can help them make the connection and better understand this material. So this advent calendar what it is you can either have them work on this independently or this can be a group project. And what you do, there's a different subjects that you can choose from, but I'm just going to go ahead and click on the elemental discoveries. And if you scroll down, sorry, I didn't put this in the chat box. Let me put that in there for you. There you go. So if you scroll down, you can click on enlarge the picture. And then you have your magnifying glass and you can hover over whatever element you want to blow up. So hydrogen, I like this chemistry subject for the elemental discoveries because this really shows globalization and the periodic table. They've organized it in a way where it has the year of the discovery of the element, as well as the nationality of the discoverers and the country that it was discovered in. So this is something that you could do with your students. They could focus on maybe one element or a couple elements instead of doing the entire periodic table. So maybe a couple of your students will take 5 of them, and then another group will take another 5. And eventually you guys can create the entire periodic table. They also have different ideas for you as well. Like you could choose to do them with country names instead. So maybe you're going to pick for C, you're going to use China. And maybe for BE, you're going to choose Beijing. Or for iodine, you could choose Indonesia. And now for my last thing is another way to make your classroom globalized is you can use current events in your classroom. I chose this website called Associated Press because they have real world media involved. I put that link in the chat box for you. So if you go to the upper right side and you click on topics and you scroll down, you can click on any of the topics, but since we're talking about globalization, you can click on the international news. Earlier when I checked it, there were quite a few articles on Ethiopia. Now it looks like they have posted one about Guatemala. So these are things that you can either assign your students, or you can do it together as a class. So now one last thing, I just want to close my presentation with a video. Someone showed this to me earlier this year during the transition from completely getting to know my students virtually, which was totally different from a teacher or for a teacher. So this is an encouraging video and I hope you enjoy it.
Funny, dude. So, Coach, how strong is Westview this year? A lot stronger than we are.
You already written Friday night down as a loss, Brock?
Well, not if I know we could beat them.
Come here, Brock. You too, Jeremy.
What, am I in trouble now?
Not yet. I want to see you do the death crawl again, except I want to see your absolute best.
What, you want me to go to the 30?
I think you can go to the 50.
50. I can go to the 50 if nobody's on my back.
I think you can do it with Jeremy on your back. But even if you can, I want you to promise me you're going to do your best.
All right.
Your best.
Okay.
You going to give me your best?
I'm going to give you my best.
All right, one more thing. I want you to do it blindfolded.
Why?
Because I want you giving up at a certain point when you can go further. Get down. Jeremy, get on his back. I get a good tight hold, Jeremy. All right, let's go, Brock. Keep your knees off the ground, just your hands and feet. There you go. A little bit left. A little bit left. There you go. Show me good effort. That way, Brock. You keep coming. There you go. It's a good start. A little bit left. A little bit left. There you go, Brock. Good strength. That's it, Brock. That's it.
Not at the 20 yet?
Forget the 20. You give me your best. You keep going. That's it. No, don't stop, Brock. You got more in you than that.
I ain't done. Just resting a second.
You got to keep moving. Let's keep moving. Let's go. Don't quit till you got nothing left. There you go. Keep moving. Keep moving. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. You keep driving. Keep your knees off the ground. Keep driving it. Your very best. Your very best. Your very best. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. That's it. That's it. Keep going. Don't quit on me. Keep going. Keep driving it. Keep your knees off the ground. That's it. Your very best. Don't quit on me. Your very best. Keep driving. Keep driving. There you go. There you go. That's it. You keep driving. Keep your knees off the ground. Keep driving it. Don't quit till you got nothing left. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. That's it. That's it. Keep going. I want everything you got. Come on, keep going. It hurts. Don't quit on me. Your very best. Keep driving. Keep driving. There you go. There you go.
He's heavy.
I know he's heavy.
I'm out of strength.
Then you negotiate with your body to find more strength, but don't you give up on me, Brock. You keep going. You hear me? You keep going. You're doing good. You keep going. Do not quit on me. You keep going.
It hurts.
I know it hurts. You keep going. You keep going. It's all hard from here. 30 more steps. You keep going, Brock. Come on. Keep going.
Burn.
And let it burn.
Burn.
It's all hard. You keep going, Brock. Come on. Come on. Keep going. You promised me your best. Your best. Don't stop. Keep going.
Too hard.
It's not too hard. You keep going. Come on, Brock. Give me more. Give me more. Keep going. 20 more steps. 20 more. Keep going, Brock. Give me your best. Don't quit. No. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. Brock Kelly, you don't quit. Keep going. Keep going. Go, Brock Kelly. You don't quit on me. No, you keep going. You keep going. Go, Brock. 10 more steps. 10 more. 10 more. 10 more. Keep going. Don't quit. Give me yours. You can. You can. 5 more. 5 more. Come on, Brock. Come on. Don't quit. Don't quit. Come on, Brock. 2 more. 1 more.
Let's go. 50. Let's go to 50. I don't have any more.
Look up, Brock. you're in the end zone. Brock, you are the most influential player on this team. If you walk around defeated, so will they. Don't tell me you can't give me more than what I've been seeing. You just carried a 140-pound man across this whole field on your arms. Brock, I need you. God's gifted you with the ability of leadership. Don't waste it.
Coach?
Can I count on you? Yes.
Coach?
What is it, Jeremy?
I wear 160.
All right. Who's next?
There are so many things that we could talk about with the information that that video contains. I find it very encouraging and inspirational. As a teacher, you know, especially this year, I know how hard it can be to teach in a virtual setting, and it's just completely different than anything that we've ever done before. But I just want to say thank you, and don't give up teaching. There's this expression called "you can't pour from an empty cup." So make sure you're taking care of yourself and, you know, just uplifting one another, and make sure you're talking to your coworkers and the other educators in your building and find out how they're doing. The students are counting on you. This concludes my presentation, and thank you all so much for attending and for listening to my presentation today. I hope you can walk away with at least one idea that you can use in your classroom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kylie. I do agree with you that this kind of video was such an uplifting or encouraging video. Yeah, that's a very good video. And actually, teachers can make science to be fun and interesting for students by encouraging their natural curiosity about the world and teaching them how to find answers for themselves. And after all, most of science is a kind of an investigating activity, right?
Yes.
Ya. And Bapak Ibu, apa yang dijelaskan oleh Miss Hailey Hurst adalah bagaimana kita memanfaatkan banyak sumber atau sources yang bersifat digital atau langsung terkoneksi dengan internet begitu. Dalam pelajaran apapun, tidak hanya sains saja. Misalkan saya mengajar bahasa Inggris, maka saya harus bisa mengembangkan potensi saya untuk memberikan metode pembelajaran bagi siswa. Tentunya dengan melihat karakteristik siswa tersebut, apakah mereka akan mempunyai fun learning or not. Nah, kemudian sumber-sumber yang sangat potensial tadi dapat kita gunakan sebagai variasi kita dalam memberikan metode pembelajaran atau materi terhadap siswa agar siswa tidak merasa jenuh atau bosan. Mungkin begitu. That's all that I can extend for the first presentation. And thank you very much. That was a kind of interesting presentation and very meaningful too. Let's continue to the next presentation. We have Mr. David Martin Alfie. He will come with a topic about adapting to teaching in a global environment. As for your information, Mr. David Martin Alfie is an international educator who teaches English at the Said International School in Qatar. And please welcome Mr. David Martin Alfie. Time is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. David Martin.
And I must say, after watching that last activity there, I'm feeling so tired, you know, as if I was the one doing it. But it was quite interesting, quite meaningful, and very appropriate to us as teachers, you know, because we always need to be motivated. We always need to be motivated. Well, I'm going to try to share my screen now. Okay. Well, firstly, my name is David Elvie. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. And I want to say a big thank you to the moderator, and thank you for inviting me to be a presenter in this very prestigious and very necessary workshop. So far, I have gained a lot from the presenters, and I hope that you'll be able to gain something from my presentation as well. Now, this workshop, I think, is very necessary, and it is very essential as we try to navigate an ever-changing educational climate and an evolving world. Today, my role, as I've been told, is to share my experience with you as an international teacher. So I won't, even though I'm a teacher of English, I will not be talking to you about English per se, unless there are questions afterwards that you want to ask about, specifically about English. But I am expected to share my experience with you as an international teacher. The hope is that some of you will, if you're not international teachers now, that some of you will go on to become international teachers. As you were told this morning in the presentation done by Professor Manning, that we are living in a global environment. Globalization is the order of the day. And so even if you're not an international educator now, at some point down the line, you may become one. Therefore, it is essential that you broaden your scope. And I share with you some of my experiences teaching on the international scene. Now, the topic is adapting to teaching in a global environment, Now, the word adapt there implies change, getting used to. In other words, changing teaching to suit a global environment, a global setting, if you like. Now, if you're operating on the global scene, definitely there is going to be the need for you to change some of your practices, some of your ways of teaching. Now, I want to take you through my experience as a global educator. I was born in the on the beautiful island of Jamaica, and therefore it was lovely to hear Miss Ingrid this morning coming to you from Jamaica. I'm coming to you from Qatar because I'm operating internationally. And after studying in Jamaica, I taught in the secondary school system there. And then later I taught in at the tertiary level. I then migrated to the United States of America, where I did a master's degree, and I worked there for a while. I worked in one of the most international environments. I worked at a camp upstate New York called Brantley Camp, where I was exposed to staff members from all over the world, including Indonesia. And so my international journey, I think, would have started there. And then I migrated to the United Kingdom, where I taught in England for over 10 years. And it was a very, very rewarding experience. I later moved to Qatar, where I'm presently teaching at the Messaid International School. And for those of you who don't know much about Qatar, it's a fantastic part of the world in the country in the Middle East. And we really have quite a number of Indonesians there. In fact, I teach a number of students with Indonesian background. So you're well represented in Qatar. Now, my question to you at this moment is, how many of you are international teachers? And if I could see, perhaps I could see people raising their hand, but I'm not able to see anything like that. Or how many of you intend to work internationally? Now, some of you may be thinking that's not really, I don't intend to operate on the international scene, but that's how I felt some time ago. That's how I felt many years ago, but here I am operating internationally. So you never know in this sort of world that we're living in, where globalization is the order of the day. You never know, you may become an international teacher one day. Now, many years ago, as an overview, I would say many years ago, you would go into a school and most of the teachers would be from the same community or even from the same country. But today you go into schools across the world and you will realize that many teachers are from overseas. They're from outside of the country, even in schools that are not so-called international schools. Now, in the school that I teach in Qatar, Messaid International School, we have a number of teachers who are from overseas. In fact, the entire staff is quite international. There isn't even one local teacher on our staff. And our teachers are from Chile, they're from Jamaica, Indonesia, and predominantly from the UK because it is a British international school. Now, I understand that the local Arabic school, which is just down the road from us, it's the staff makeup is about the same. Many of the teachers are not local, they are from overseas. Now, I've also noticed that once you start working on the international or global circuit, that the tendency is to stay international. So people don't really go back to their home country to teach until perhaps they're close to retirement age. I don't know why. Maybe the funds that you are able to earn overseas is very lucrative, very luring. So people want to stay international for some time. So based on what I've just said, you will find that teachers today, their CVs, their curriculum vitae will reflect that they have taught in Dubai, in UK, in Qatar, on many countries on the continent of Africa. So what is the reason behind this? What is the reason for this? So we have looked at the changes in education. What is the reason for these changes, or what are the reasons for these changes? I think at the forefront of everything is this whole idea or the whole concept of globalization, because the world has become such a small place with the advancement of technology, the development in technology. You can be in Indonesia at this moment and you are on the phone communicating quite easily with someone in the United States. So the world is now very small. So no longer are people seeing themselves as limited to their community, but they realize that they can branch out, they can launch out, they can go places and ply their trade. Now, a recent research shows that, done by ISC, shows that over the next 10 years, there will be the requirement for over 230,000 teachers to work internationally. Now, there you go, food for thought. So now some of you must be thinking that perhaps you will be in that group of teachers who will later migrate to teach on the international scene. Now, it is all well and good that you want to teach internationally, but there are certain changes that you will need to make. You will need to change the way you do things, because when you look at the way you are supposed to operate as a global citizen, you need to be able to share your culture while at the same time not imposing on the culture of other people. Now, if you think that you are going to go into a country or a school and change things, then I think you should think again, because it is not as easy as that. In fact, you won't find life easy if you decide to do that. Therefore, you must have in the back of your mind that you need to adapt, you need to change to suit the place that you are calling your new home. Now, how are you going to adapt to suit this country? How are you going to adapt to make sure that you are operating as a global citizen, but at the same time maintaining your culture? And at the same time, not imposing on other people's culture, at the same time, being able to operate comfortably in the school that you are teaching at. Now, my first proposal is that you go on a fact-finding mission. You try to find out about this particular place as much as you possibly can, because that will enable you to be able to fit in a bit more easily. You need to learn the culture of the place. You need to learn the culture of the place. And I'll come back to that in a minute. You have to be willing to compromise, which means that you have to be willing to meet people halfway, to be able to understand other people's culture and to perhaps see how it fits in with your own culture. And the last point on my slide here is respecting local culture. Now, working in Qatar is my first experience working in an Islamic country, and Qatar is fantastic. It's great, but I had to change a number of things, or the way that I would view things. And there are other people who have had to make dramatic or drastic changes to the way they operate, because Qatar is a country, Islamic country, so you have to be careful with the way you dress. You have to, even your teaching material, you have to be careful with your teaching material, because there are some material that I could have used when I was teaching in the UK that I cannot use here in Qatar, because it would be against the religious customs and culture of the place. So you really do need to learn how to respect the culture and respect the place you're working in, at the same time not eroding or taking away your own culture or depleting your own culture. And learning, I said that I would come back to learning about the culture. Now, I remember, when I moved to the United Kingdom, I was teaching in a school in rural England, and I am a teacher of English, which means I'm very comfortable with the language. And as I was about to start a class with a group of young people, I had them in a line outside waiting to enter the room. And I was trying to get them to be quiet and to get them in an orderly manner. And there was one young man with his trousers that was partially going away from his waistline. And so I went to him and I said, pull up your pants, pull up your pants. Now, being from Jamaica and having operated and lived in the United States of America, pants is used interchangeably with trousers. Now, the students erupted in laughter and they were laughing like crazy. And I couldn't understand why they were laughing until one young lady said to me that, sir, pants is underwear. Because in the culture of the UK, in the language, which is a big part of culture, trousers is used as trousers, the outer garment, and pants is not the pants that we call it in Jamaica or in the United States, it's the underwear. So you need to know the language. Even though you may speak the language, you still need to be able to know the different nuances, the different changes in the way people use the language and how it fits into the culture of this place. So we've gone through why we need to learn the culture in order to be able to fit into this system that your new home that you're operating in internationally. Now, I want to share with you the experiences of two of my colleagues who are working on the international circuit, and they are going to share their experience and how they adapt or change their culture to suit the international norms, or how they merge their local customs with the local customs with their customs or culture. Can you hear this?
Yes.
I cannot hear the voice, so.
You're not hearing the?
Yeah.
Okay. To go back to the slide. 1 minute, I'll get it.
Hello all.
Hopefully you can hear
Let
it
me
now.
introduce myself. My name is
very clear.
I've been a teacher for the last 25 years, the last 7 of which I've been teaching in an international school in the Middle East. The school that I work in is made up of predominantly expatriate students, including myself, which is more or less coming from about 25 different countries from around the world. International Day is used as a gateway in my school to more or less broaden the students' horizons, and it affords them the opportunities for them to learn about other cultures from their other students, about food, customs, and languages, while also forming a greater understanding of their own place in the wider community that they're a part of. We have a number of activities used during International Day to promote this cultural diversity, and they include a number of things. One of the activity includes students and staff coming into school on the day or during International Day dressed in traditional clothing or traditional colors. The day also includes special exhibition hosted by the various countries to show or display their cultural exhibits or other things that is of interest to the other cultures. They also share or participate in their food or cultures where they're cooking and bringing into school and giving each other countries an opportunity to taste the food and the cuisine from the various countries. And lastly, there's a parade through the community of all the different countries, showcasing their flags, showcasing their colors. And this is done through the community. And this is a community event where all countries, students, staff, and the parents are also involved in this activity.
Assalamu alaikum, bonjour, and hello everybody. My name is Sarah, and I'm here to speak to you about how my customs and my culture influence my teaching in an international setting, and ultimately how I inspire my students to be global citizens, but also for my own personal goal is to help my students to actually be a benefit to society. So I greeted you all with 3 different languages, and that's an indication of my cultural background. So I have North African heritage, I have European heritage, and I was born and raised in the United Kingdom, and that's where I was educated as well. So a lot of these play a very important part in my cultural background, but also I'm a Muslim, as you can see, and this is also a very important identity for me, and it's a very visible identity for me as well. I know that I don't have a lot of time to speak with you. I could speak with you all day long, so I've jotted down a few notes on how I feel that my culture influences my teaching. And ultimately, I think one of the first ones, which is more striking with my students, is how I dress. Okay, and that I'm a teacher and I'm a female teacher, and I'm also teaching a language which is, you know, my department is not typical of the way I dress, especially for modern foreign languages, which is a more European background. So this culture ultimately, you know, grabs the attention of my students. Also, it's my speech. The way I speak, I ensure that I speak with a certain accent, or I can speak in different languages. I can speak in French, I can speak in Arabic, and this is also something that the students pay attention to when I'm teaching them, and it also influences my teaching in the international setting. I also offer some after-school clubs which show my interests and my hobbies. For example, I do a henna club, and I also offered a hair club, which are in, you know, things that were interesting to me, and it helps the students see that, you know, there are other things that we can do in education and help, and there are other things that our cultures actually influence and help them to become a benefit to society as well. Also, within the curriculum that I actually teach, we do teach about, for example, French culture, as I'm a French teacher. We talk about the differences in schooling, for example, in the British system and the French system. We pay attention to different cultures with regards to food, and a few other examples, but I am conscious of time. I also am one of the pastoral leaders in my school, and I find that having this role.
Okay, I'm not sure why it stopped there. Are you hearing me still?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure why it stopped there, but what Sarah was sharing there is that she was trying to show us how she merges her culture with the international norms. Royden did the same as well. I'm not sure why my slide is just racing away now. Let me try to go back. Okay, yes. So Royden also shared his idea of using International Day for the students to share their culture with each other by parading in their national dress. They're showing their flags, sharing the cuisine from the different countries. And Sarah talked about using extracurricular activities to show this. My slide is just racing away for some reason, and I can't understand what's going on. But then I would now go on to talk about the characteristics of an international teacher or global teacher. And there's just some reason why this is just racing away here for some reason. Okay, so there are some characteristics that you need to be able to display as an international teacher. If you're going to be an effective one, you must be, of course, qualified. You must be adaptable. You must be resilient and resourceful. For some reason, it has raced away, so I'm trying to get it back. Yeah, this one here. Yeah, okay. Take it from here. Okay, for you to be an international, an effective global teacher, I'm sorry about that. You need to be qualified, of course. You need to be adaptable, which means that you should be able to be up for making the changes. Then you need to be resilient. You need to be resourceful. And resourceful is a very powerful one there, because you may not work in a country where everything is easily available, like in Qatar. But so you need to be able to come up with your materials that you're going to use to teach your lessons. And of course, there are many obstacles to teaching on the global or on the international scene. So it's not always smooth sailing. And some of these obstacles could be contracts. So you need to be able to research that, find out about it before you sign up for whatever you're getting into. You need to be able to find the resources. Qualification is an obstacle for most people. Adequate funds, because sometimes you get on the international scene through agencies and they have not done the right thing, which is to provide you with funds. You have to be prepared to be accepted, or some people have difficulties even being accepted on the international scene. So these are all things that you should be thinking about. And I am just working on this slide because for some reason it is going away. Okay, well, I will stop here because in the interest of time, and allow you to ask any questions that you may want to ask. Okay, thank you very much.
You are welcome, sir. The questions will be...
Hello. Let me introduce myself. My name is Royden Temple.
Sorry.
Hey, David, I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very informative. So I am actually interested in becoming an international teacher. So I really liked your presentation. So how does one get connected teaching internationally? So what type of agent, do you have any like suggestions on agencies to use?
Well, there are several agencies that one might decide to use. I remember when I decided to work in Qatar, however, I did not use an agency. I was lucky enough to be surfing the net when I saw the job being advertised. And I gave the school a call and then later sent my CV in. And then I had subsequent conversations with them in terms of an interview, that sort of thing. But there are agencies that are out there. When I migrated to the United Kingdom, I used an agency called Dream Education, and that they were very helpful. So Dream, there is Hourglass as well, you know, that you can get online and do you know, type it, Google search, that sort of thing, and it could perhaps give you some clues. As well as, you know, you can apply directly to the schools. Thank you. That's a good question.
What about the answer, Miss Kylie?
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And I will continue to have the conclusion about the second speaker presentation. Of course, when we become the teachers, we have to be qualified, adaptable, resilient, and resourceful. And when we have the online learning, we have to create a coherent learning experience for the students with whom they may not meet face to face. And then therefore, it must be developed the new support strategies that maintain motivation and encourage the interaction. The adaptive student-centered approach to the online environment has required the development of new skills and change to teaching practices. Sehingga Bapak Ibu, participants atau audiens yang ada di sini, seperti yang kita ketahui bahwa mungkin dalam masa pandemi ini kita menjadi guru online gitu ya, secara full. Kemudian kita harus menciptakan pengalaman belajar yang koheren atau berkesinambungan untuk siswa yang mungkin belum pernah mereka temui sebelumnya secara langsung, dan oleh karena itu kita juga harus mengembangkan strategi yang memotivasi atau mendukung interaksi dengan siswa maupun guru tersebut. Kita juga harus mengadaptasi pendekatan yang berpusat pada siswa kepada online environment yang membutuhkan pengembangan keterampilan baru dan perubahan pada praktik pengajaran kita. Ya, mungkin itu yang bisa saya simpulkan. And now we come to the last speaker, maybe because I think we don't have any conducive time anymore, so we decide to to call the third speaker as the last speaker. So for Miss or Dr. Upasana Singh, are you there? I would like to call Dr. Upasana Singh.
Yes,
Hello.
I'm here, ma'am.
Oh,
But
okay, I can hear your voice.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, you will present about the navigating the digital space, a digital practitioner's perspective.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm assuming that you can hear me clearly and you can see my screen share on the other side.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to all of you. My sincere gratitude to Professor Sophia for inviting me and for giving me an opportunity to be part of the panel. Thank you to the moderator, Andina ma'am, for her hospitality, and to the organizers of the event. I would like to just give you a little background that I do not come from a teacher background. I'm an academic at a university, so I lecture students at university level. But what I'm going to try to share with you today is about the move to the online environment and what skills you need to survive in the online environment, or perhaps to enhance your teaching in the online environment. So my understanding is that most of the educators who are attending today are either planning or you already are, as our two previous speakers spoke, international teachers. So you are teaching in an international environment, and you're having to deal with students from multicultural backgrounds, from diverse students who might have diverse learning styles as well. So before I get on to the content itself, I lecture at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, which is in Durban, South Africa. Sorry for that interruption. So here you have a beautiful picture of our scenic Durban beachfront. And I hope that post-COVID-19, for those of you who are attending today, some of you will be able to visit our beautiful country. The university that I lecture at is the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and we have 5 different campuses. Each of these campuses have different colleges associated with them, and I think the one college that you would be very interested in is the College of Education, which is based in just outside the city, about 12 kilometers outside the city. We have approximately 50,000 students at University of KwaZulu-Natal and about 2,500 academics. So you can imagine that when we had to move across into the online environment, being a typical face-to-face university, the online environment was rather daunting for many of our academics because they didn't have any training. And I think many educators in the school sector went through exactly the same feelings, because when we ran our workshops on empowerment for online teaching, we found that many school teachers were now starting to attend these sessions because they were also facing similar challenges. Through my interactions with most of these teachers and educators and academics, I identified 8 basic skills which I think are necessary when you are starting to teach students in an online environment. And I'm going to spend the next few minutes of the presentation very briefly brushing through what we mean by each of these skills. The idea here is that many of these skills you might already have in your normal or your typical face-to-face environment, but some of the other skills you would need to enhance when you move to the online space. So the framework that has been created is known as the ASSET framework, standing for academic skill set. And this can apply to any educator, whether you're in the primary school sector, high school sector, tertiary education, anybody who's involved in teaching. These are the skills that you need to get your students engaged and interactive in the classroom. The first skill that we speak about is digital literacy, and I think all of us here have had to learn new tools to start teaching our students, especially during the pandemic, to keep them engaged, to deliver content to them. So when you are looking at digital literacy, before you start looking at the tool that you want to apply, your first objective is to identify what it is that you want your students to achieve from your class. So do you want your students to interact? Do you want your students to engage with material? Do you want your students to engage with each other? And thereafter, you will locate the technology that is going to support your teaching objective. And when you're looking for technology that's going to support your teaching objectives, you have to strike a balance between technology that's freely available and technology that you have to pay for. So some tools like, I don't know if you have been exposed to tools like Kahoots, certain content in those tools are available free of charge. And then as you want to get more engagement level going with the students, you would have to start paying a subscription. Okay, some schools and some institutions, tertiary education institutions, also have learning management systems installed. So your students engage with those learning management systems. Do you know the full range of tools that are available? Sometimes your colleagues might refer you to plugins that you can use with the learning management system itself. The easiest way for us to identify tools which we can use to engage our students in and to enhance the learning experience is either through searching using Google, looking at YouTube videos. I find the most resourceful place of identifying tools is to speak to my colleagues. And I think in Kaylee's presentation, she also spoke about how important it is to help each other along this journey. So if you found a tool which you think might help your other or your fellow educators, share it with them. Share your experience with them, tell them what went well and what went wrong so that they can avoid the same pitfalls. And then research papers. Being an academic, we have to read research papers. And so reading about other people's experiences with these tools also assists. Once you've identified the tool, remember that there's a range of tools that can achieve a specific objective. So for example, if you're wanting to give your students a poll in the classroom, you could use a free tool like Mentimeter, Slido, or you could even use the poll tool in Zoom itself. You need to determine which of those tools is going to give you the best fit. Once you've identified the tool, you need to test the tool with the students. Okay, especially if you are going to use a tool for assessment purposes. So in some of the earlier presentations, you were exposed to a few online tools. If your students are going to have to interact with those tools for assessment purposes, you need to give them a chance to experiment with the tool, to get familiar with the environment. And if you have colleagues who you work with on a regular basis, who you think you can engage in this testing process, ask them to test the tool with you to see that you're meeting your objective. When you finally choose to implement the technology in the classroom, and we're talking about an online classroom, since you do not have access to see your students on the other side, I don't know about Indonesia, but here in South Africa, many of our students struggle with technology. Sorry, and Dina, can you just disable annotations because some of the participants are scribbling on the screen? Okay, in South Africa, the issue that we face with our students is that they do not have access to technology, they do not have access to data to interact in an online environment. So the best way for us to conduct our online classes at times is to ask them to switch off their videos so that we're saving them data. And as a result of which we do not have that much of interactivity with the students. So I usually get a student representative in the classroom to assist me to make sure that everything is being displayed correctly on their side. Sometimes if there's a problem with my audio, the student can alert me to it. The idea is that we need to have communication between the students and ourselves. And lastly, and most importantly, technology is going to fail you. There's going to be times when the technology doesn't work the way it's supposed to. For example, when you tested it, your data might suddenly crash on you, your laptop battery might die. Learn from your mistakes. We all make mistakes. We need to learn from these mistakes so that we know how to handle them when the technology does fail us. The second skill that we speak about is known as digital pedagogy. And pedagogy is about understanding what it is that you want to achieve in your classroom. So merely using technology does not automatically improve the learning process for the student. You can use a learning management system and post all your learning material onto that learning management system. But if you don't guide your students to the Google Classroom, for example, and say to them, new material has been uploaded, you need to read it before the next session, students are not going to interact. So merely implementing the technology is not going to solve the learning problems that we have in the online environment. We also have to understand that we do not have to be technocentric in order to implement technology. What needs to go first is to understand the learning process that we want the students to achieve, and then find the tool which is going to support the learning process. So in order to focus on the learning, we have to understand firstly how to use the technology, secondly, when to use it, and thirdly, why we need to use the technology. A very potent saying that I came across, a quotation, says that digital pedagogy is not simply a copy and paste. If you are in an online environment doing exactly what you were doing in a face-to-face environment, then you're not actually implementing the online environment effectively. Online environment means that we need to rethink how we were performing activities in a face-to-face environment. And a very simple example I'd like to give you is in assessments, if you're doing multiple choice assessments in a face-to-face environment, typically your multiple choice questions are a single question with 5 options or 4 options that you give the students, and they either need to circle or shade in order to complete that question. If you now take that same question and you move it into an online quiz in an online environment, simply doing a copy and paste, that's not really rethinking the assessment process. What it requires is understanding the tool that you're going to be using. So Kahoots, learning the quizzes tool in Moodle, using the poll tool in Zoom. You will notice that there are different question types that you can create. So you might be able to recreate that 4-option or 5-option multiple choice question into a diagram-based question where students can click and drag in order to complete that particular question. The idea here is that you need to rethink how you're going to achieve the same objective, but using technology, be it in an online environment. So I'm going to break the talk a little bit and ask you to participate in a little activity. And the idea behind showing you these kind of activities is just to let you know that there are free tools out there. So if your school does not have enough funds to invest in technology that you can use to engage your students in an online environment, there are many free tools that you can use. So we're going to move across, and if you are working on a laptop, you can use your internet browser on your laptop. If you have access to a mobile phone, you can use your mobile phone as well. It's a very simple activity. The website that you need to get to is called slido.com. So the first instruction to you is that you need to open your web browser, whichever web browser it is. Thereafter, you will navigate to slido.com, and the hashtag to enter the event is IAED, all in small letters. And all of these instructions are projected for you on the screen right now. And if you're having any difficulty joining, please do let me know. So, thank you. Okay, so what we have on the screen right now is a quiz, and we have a question posed to the audience. So if you have students in your classroom and you'd like to get them engaged in an interactive quiz, the slido.com provides you with an interactive interface. Here I have a short question, and the question essentially reads as: your recorded video lectures should be just 5 minutes, on average about 15 minutes, or the same duration as your face-to-face lecture. You'll find that most of your students will enjoy these type of activities for the simple reason that many of our students today are very techno-savvy. They like to use their mobile phones, they like to use apps and activities which involve the use of technology. The advantage of using an interactive quiz like this is that you can see, as the students participate, the counter at the top right-hand corner is telling you the participation rate. Okay, so we have 178 participants, but only 4 responses thus far. So that's telling us that not many of the participants are actually engaged in the session itself. And you can gauge the interactivity of your students, especially for those students whose videos are off, by giving them these type of activities. So I'm going to leave this quiz open, or this question open, for another 5 seconds, and then show you how the interaction works in terms of giving the students the answers. Okay, so rather disappointingly, we have just 6 responses from 178 participants who are attending, but we move on to the next question. And before we get to the next question, especially if you are discussing this in a class situation, you can give your students feedback. So you can say, well, 50% of the participants think that recorded video lectures should be just 5 minutes, and the other 50% think that your recorded lecture should be on average about 15 minutes. And you can start a discussion with your students regarding the answers that they have given before you give them the actual answer itself. Okay, so let us assume for time, in the interest of time, that we've had the discussion, and thereafter you can project the correct answer to the students. Okay, so the correct answer here is that on average, if you are trying to replace a classroom session that you would have had with students in a face-to-face environment with a recorded video session, it should be about 15 minutes. If your recorded videos are 5 minutes or slightly shorter, then you find you have too many smaller pieces and the students have an extra cognitive load of having to go through multiple videos to understand a single concept. Okay, so I hope that that little activity gave you some insight into how you can use tools which are free of charge. They're available free on the internet to engage your students in an online classroom. Okay, so to round off that particular skill, as we said, digital pedagogy is not simply about relocating content, but it is about encouraging collaboration in the classroom, making sure that you include students from diverse backgrounds and that you engage your students as actively as possible. An example of how I try to also engage students so that I can get to understand the diversity which is present in my classroom is I often give them social-based discussion forums. So one of the discussion forums that I use to try to understand who are the different students in my classroom is I get them to introduce themselves by asking them to post a little picture of who they are and give me 1 or 2 lines as an introduction that tells me what they like, what they dislike, or something that's creative as possible. So here is an example of one participant in a webinar which I ran recently, who said that she was a lecturer in English and communication programs, and she decided to put this picture because she said she was overwhelmed with the move to the online environment at that point in time. Okay, you often get students who can be quite creative in their introductions. So I had one student who introduced himself at my 3rd year lecture and he said, I'm not a terrorist. Okay, so the idea is that you're just giving them that little bit of freedom to get to know each other and to get to know you as the lecturer as well. Okay, I'm now going to switch over again. So if you just bear with me for a minute, please. Okay, another type of activity that I use to get to know the students is to run a simple poll, like we have here on the screen. If you want to, you can participate. Again, we have a little poll here so that you can get to know who the students are in your classroom. And here I have a simple poll activity, and as people respond, we can get to see the actual responses of the students. So this is a different question type that I used in Slido. This is known as an active poll. The previous one that I used was an online quiz. So as more people participate, we see the results of the poll, and this then becomes a more interactive live activity, and you can get students to engage in this way. As you can see from this picture here, this is a typical 1st year class that we have at UKZN in the discipline of information systems. And when our classes are face-to-face, we can picture or identify the diversity in my classroom. Like I'm sure most of you who are international teachers, you would have various race groups, various ethnic groups in your classroom. in South Africa, we have exactly the same, okay? So we have various race groups, genders, ethnicity, all represented in the same classroom. And we need to cater for this diversity in the classroom itself. When you move to the online environment, it's no different. You still need to recognize the diversity present in your classroom. And one of the easiest ways in which to understand who your different learners are and how they learn, what are their learning preferences, is to use a learning preference like the VARK framework. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the VARK framework, but essentially the VARK framework has a series of questions, probably about 20 to 25 questions. And I use this at the beginning of my first sessions with my students to get to understand where the majority of the students in my classroom are visual learners, majority are read and write learners, or are they oral learners, or are they a combination? And this will then help you in terms of how you can create the content to deliver to the students to satisfy their learning preferences. Now remember that each student will have a different combination of V, A, R, and K. Visual meaning a learner who prefers charts and diagrams and graphics. And oral is a person who prefers listening. A read or write learner is a student who prefers reading and explanation and writing. And a kinesthetic learner is a learner who prefers learning in action, learning through art and those kind of activities. So each student will have a different balance or a different ratio of each of these learning preferences. Once I've given the students the VARK questionnaire, I then run a quick poll and I say to them, identify for me which of these was the most prominent learning style for you. And that then gives me a gauge of what is a split of visual, oral, read and write, and kinesthetic learners in my classroom. And it not only helps me for the learning or for the teaching process, but it also helps me for the assessment process. Because if I find that majority of my students are visual learners in the classroom, I can design assessments that include diagrams or allow them to express themselves in a chart or in a diagram. And therefore, students now benefit better from the learning process because they are learning in the style that they prefer. Amongst the concept of diversity is, or how we can try to get students to work together from diverse backgrounds, is getting them to participate in social learning activities. So besides just having a class session where you're teaching content, have a little bit of an introductory session with them where they have social activities that they can participate in to interact with each other. I'm just going to give you a very simple example, like we're using Zoom for this particular session. And when I logged in here, I noticed that the waiting room was enabled. So before I could enter, I had to be admitted into the waiting room. Now I use exactly the same setup when I have a small number of students in my classroom who are engaging in the online environment. I let them in one at a time or maybe in groups of 2 or 3, because what I do is I speak to them at a social level. So I address them like I would say, hi, Andina, hi, Kaylee, how are you today? How was your weekend? How is online learning going for you? So that there is a bit of a social element, and then the student doesn't feel that there's this barrier in terms of technology, a laptop between me and the lecturer or me and the teacher. Trying to get the student to feel that there is a more interactive social learning environment. I also make use of breakaway rooms in Zoom because I find that some students are more comfortable speaking to each other in smaller groups than they are in a large group where there's a lecturer there. So the minute I take myself away from that environment, students start to interact with each other. Okay, so the use of breakaway rooms can be very effective. The use of multiple chat facilities. So you could direct you could direct your students to questions by answering the questions in the chat. So they feel less apprehensive to unmute their mic will have to switch their video on to participate. Okay, so those are just different types of techniques that we can use in terms of understanding our students and getting them to work together in a diverse environment. I have a very short video clip, it's about a minute, just to share with you how students start unfolding when you use breakaway rooms in smaller sessions. Now, what we had here is at the top, we have a guest who came in from KPMG, who's one of the accounting firms, and he was giving a guest talk to the students about concepts in IT. And he then gave them a case study and he said, okay, we're going to break into groups and we're going to get the students to interact with each other. Okay, and I found it worked effectively. So, something you can hear me. So from what I read, I think that one of the things is the IT because that's the flow, what the flow and the process.
Okay, so what about background and information available to us? Things that you have to
What is the Okay, I'm going to stop it there because I'm sure the content is not something that you can relate to. But the idea here is you can see that the student starts interacting with a more senior person like a guest lecturer in this breakaway session because suddenly they feel that they're not being monitored by the rest of their classmates, the lecturer isn't present. Although what I do is I do go between the different breakaway rooms that I create, and I try to see that the students are engaging, and if they aren't engaging, then I just stimulate the discussion through that through the discussion forum itself. Okay, so that's just a simple example that I wanted to share with you. And then, of course, something that I like to do is to make students feel that we are part of their generation, although I'm no longer part of the student generation, and many of you younger teachers probably are. But we all know that students like selfies, they like photos, they like interactivity and, with each other. So I often invite them like I did with this is my third year class that I had this year. And I said to them, okay, we're now going to do a class of 2020 group photo. And you'll be amazed at how they started interacting post this group photo session. Because firstly, not only did they get to meet me by switching their videos on, but they got to meet each other in a virtual environment, which is something that they're really missing. Many students are feeling this social isolation in the online environment. So getting them to see who exactly is in my classroom, how many females are there? I'm in an IT discipline, which is, generally male dominated. And it was wonderful to see so many females in our final year, third year class. So it also helped me to understand who my students were just by a simple activity of saying, let's do a class photo. I got to know the race distribution. I got to know the gender distribution. And this was not by asking them, what's your race, what's your gender? It's just a simple activity which gave me some information as the lecturer as well. Okay, the next skill that we speak about is communication skills, and communication is essential in an online environment. And the reason for that is because students do not have the luxury of speaking to you face to face. They can't knock on your door and say, ma'am, I don't understand this. So the first important point about communication is you need to introduce yourself. There are many different ways that you can use to introduce yourself, and I'll show you an example just now. The one way that I find works really well for me is to create a very short introduction video of myself. 1 minute, 2 minutes, students get to see my face, they know who I am. They also know in my introduction video, I tell them how they need to communicate with me. So what are my communication preferences? Do I prefer email? Do I prefer discussions in an online environment? What is my response time going to be? So if a student sends me a message on email, for example, and I don't respond within 24 hours, they know that they need to resend that message. Okay, obviously during working hours and so on. Also, make sure that your communication is effective. that you communicate with students on a regular basis so that they know where they are in the learning process and where they need to be. And of course, your communication should be as comprehensive as possible. So here I have just a very simple example of an assessment which I needed students to complete. And in this example, all I'm trying to illustrate is you need to be very specific in the online environment about, for example, the date and the time of submission, the format that needs to be used for submission. And for example, here I said no late submissions will be accepted. One very important concept to remember in the online environment, and we all know that students look for loopholes. If you give them a written assignment, they will come and say to you, my dog ate my assignment, or it got lost, or I slipped it under your door. In the online environment, they don't have those kind of excuses. But very often students come and say to you, oh, but I thought that the closing time for the submission, because it's online, is midnight. So if you are choosing to allow your students to submit something in the online environment that's other than midnight, then please be very specific in the instructions that the cutoff time is this specific time. There's some guidelines that you can use if you're wanting to create an introduction video of yourself. Plan what you want to say, make sure the lighting in your room is good, that you're audible. Upload it to a platform that students can use to access that introduction video freely, and make sure you analyze any feedback that you have from that video, from the students on that video itself. Okay, so I'm not going to play this full video, but here's a little example of an introduction video which I use with my students.
I do apologize, Miss, without diminishing my respect to you. Would you like to make it faster because the time is over?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't hear that. Were you talking to me? Sorry, Andina, ma'am, were you saying something to me?
Yes, without diminishing my respect to you, I do apologize that could you make it faster? Because our time is over.
My time is over.
Yeah, our time is over.
All right. Thank you for listening.
You can make it faster, Miss. You can make it faster. You can make it faster. Of your
I'm sorry,
slide.
I'm really backing to hear you. We can take any questions.
Okay, so if you want to continue, let's still able to watch your presentation. If you still have many slides or some slides, please continue. It's fine. Yeah. Hello, can you hear my voice, Miss? Hello?
Upsana, can you hear her?
No, I'm backing to hear. The only thing I heard was that my time's up, so I said it's fine. We can take some questions.
Okay, she just said that just to make the presentation just a little bit faster because the time was up, but you can still finish presenting. So you can still share the rest.
It's fine. I'm not going to be able to rush through the presentation. I had planned it according to the time I was allocated. So we can end here, and if there's any questions, it's fine.
I do apologize for this inconvenience because the time shows 5:53 and we have to pray in Indonesia actually. So I don't mean anything about that. Miss Kylie, could you please help me to explain?
Yes, I've understood, ma'am. It's your prayer time in Indonesia, so we can end here. You can, if there are any questions, I'm happy to take it. If not, thank you for listening.
I really do apologize for the inconvenience, Miss.
I can't hear you.
We are still here for watching your presentation. You still can continue your presentation, Miss.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I think there's a misunderstanding. The time that's allowed in the Zoom is about to be expired, and I think that's the issue. But I think we also started a little later. So I apologize for whatever, misunderstanding. But do understand that Dr. Singh agrees to just end her session. So we could just move on since she decides not to continue.
Yeah, honestly, I also feel regret for that. I do apologize. And one more time, I really do apologize for that because the committee say that the time is over.
Okay, that's okay. That's one of the things that we have to deal with when we do globalization. This is a very perfect example of how we interact because it's not a perfect world. And we all have to get it, our imperfectionism together. So, we're not robots, we're humans. So we do understand that happens.
Yes, thank you, Professor.
And I'm sorry about the, the discrepancy. The time difference also has a lot to do with everything.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's the end of the presentations of the second session. And now we are going to have, we would like to announce that to all of the participants or audiences, please join to the chat box that we have. Maybe Mr. Erwin can help me to share the link of the attendance list today. Mr. Erwin?
Oke, Miss Andi.
Ya, Bapak, mungkin ini ada kesalahpahaman tadi karena kita ada waktu untuk sholat sehingga ketika Miss Upasana Singh saya sampaikan kalau harus lebih cepat untuk waktunya karena waktunya sudah mau selesai, tapi ada kesalahan sedikit jadi
nggak apa-apa nanti aja dibahas.
Karena dari komite sendiri menyarankan untuk limitation atau the time is restricted because we have to pray ya Pak ya, kita harus sholat maghrib begitu. Ya.
Oke, baik, Bu Andin disampaikan saja. Besok akan mulai kembali jam 10 begitu.
Ya.
Jadi tetap mungkin narasumber lain tetap diajak, termasuk Prof. Sophia. Jadi mungkin disampaikan sama narasumber yang sudah tampil. Tapi besok itu dilanjutkan lagi pukul 10 dengan presentasi terakhir Budia, dan nanti akan dijelaskan tugas-tugas yang mungkin akan dibuat sebagai bagian dari tugas workshop yang akan dikumpulkan di hari terakhir tanggal 9 seperti itu.
Baik, ya. Bapak Ibu, kita ada workshop lagi untuk hari kedua dan ketiga. Mohon Bapak Ibu untuk terus mengikuti kegiatan ini. Lalu besok juga akan diundang semua speakers untuk menyampaikan materi juga ya Pak ya. Kemudian
artinya enggak, besok sisa Budia dan penyampaian besok itu sisa Budia yang menyampaikan materinya dan penjelasan tentang tugas begitu.
Betul.
Kalau narasumber lagi gitu, hanya mendampingi, kalaupun memang ada memberi masukan bisa juga memberi masukan.
Betul. Untuk Ibu Dialis Maya akan mengisi sesi besok dengan memberikan instruksi atau membimbing Bapak Ibu semua untuk mengerjakan tugas secara mandiri. Lalu saya mengingatkan kembali juga untuk batas pengumpulan tugas terakhir yaitu pada pukul 16 pada tanggal 9 November 2020. Lalu sertifikat juga akan diberikan atau dibagikan pada hari terakhir ketika Anda mengikuti international webinar atau workshop ini. Baik, Bapak, apakah ada yang disampaikan kembali?
Mungkin lebih baik
Coba disampaikan aja ke
dijelaskan.
Prof.
Halo,
Iya.
Bu Andin, boleh dijelaskan ke audien atau ke speakers tentang hal ini?
Mohon maaf untuk suara Ibu, mungkin lebih
Halo,
keras lagi. Iya.
halo, kedengeran tidak?
Iya.
Oke, Miss Andin, I heard that I will presenting my presentation tomorrow, right?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, so then we finish the session for today?
Yeah, we're gonna
Oh.
finish the session for today.
Okay, and what time we start tomorrow?
It's still the same. It will be held on 10 p.m. Oh, sorry, 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Okay, Miss Andin.
So is it clear for you, Ibu?
Yeah.
Thank you. For all of the audiences, thank you for participating this event. And
Discussion? We don't have any discussion session now.
Really, Bapak, kita akan diskusi atau tidak?
Satu pertanyaan.
Oh, satu pertanyaan. Yeah. Before we end this event or this virtual meeting, I would like to choose one question, maybe.
I mean, if you have the moderator.
Yes, Professor.
Well, I was just saying that we do want to respect your culture and your religious practices, so that's fine with us. We do not have to go over. I think we need to practice exactly what we're trying to preach, and one of which is that we've had issues technically. It's one of the things that we couldn't help, and it's the culture practices this sort of thing. So I think in all fairness, we should respect the culture. And I think that exemplifies globalization and global citizenship, because we are giving up a lot of our personal social norms and even, a lot of other things to be respectful. So I think that is very reasonable.
Thank you so much for your understanding, Professor.
Yeah, I think it's understandable.
Miss Andina, we can hear your voice.
Ibu, sepertinya kita tidak akan membuka sesi diskusi karena the time is over, and we have to prepare for our prayer.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are very sorry here in Indonesia. The Maghrib praise is only for 30 minutes, and we have to go to that pray. So then we cannot continue this session.
We understand.
Yes, and thank you for all the speakers.
Lydia, jadi mungkin disampaikan besok akan dimulai kembali jam 10 karena kondisinya juga Bu Andin ini berada di sekolah begitu. Jadi Bu Andin ini sekarang posisinya berada di sekolah, ya mungkin tahu lah.
It's fine. I'm at school right now.
Disampaikan sama Bu Dia.
Okay. So Miss Andin right now she is not in her house, but she is at school.
But I think it's not a problem.
Okay then, let's finish this session. Please, Mr. Andin, feel free to finish this session.
One more time for all of the participants and especially for the speakers, I to apologize, and without diminishing my respect to all of you, I'm really sorry about the inconvenience. Please forgive us to all of our mistakes. So,
No, I think you guys did well. I think we did pretty good considering the time difference and all the technical issues. And you know,
you always
yeah, it's all good. We'll get better next time, okay?
Thank you so much.
We'll get better next time.
Yes. So that's all that we can extend, maybe. And thank you so much for all of the parties involved, and thank you for all of the participants for your attention and participation. I will give it back to the host. Bapak Erwin, saya kembalikan ke Bapak.
Oke, baik. Mungkin sekarang sudah menunjukkan pukul 18:05. Jadi sepertinya sesi kedua mungkin harus diakhiri sampai saat ini. Jadi kegiatan webinar workshop akan dilanjutkan kembali besok pukul 10 dengan pemaparan dari salah satu narasumber kita, dan mungkin kalaupun ada waktu nanti narasumber lain ikut juga hadir di tengah-tengah kita kembali. Jadi mungkin itu saja yang saya bisa sampaikan. Bapak Ibu, terima kasih banyak. Saya sudah share di grup link beserta penjelasan terkait apa yang kita akan lakukan besok. Terima kasih banyak. Saya akhiri dengan ucapan billahi fisabil haq, wassalamualaikum khairat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.
Waalaikumsalam.
See you tomorrow
I will try to get on tomorrow. Thank you. Take care. You're welcome. We'll be in touch.
Feel free to enter for tomorrow agenda.
Yes, dear.
Okay, inshallah, thank you.
Yeah, dear, I'll be in touch with you, okay? I hope everything works out.
Okay.
Blessings, y'all. Blessings.
Blessings, Sophia.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Miss.
Goodbye. Take
Bye.